So if there's one thing that history tells us here in the Sugar Bowl, that it's very challenging to beat a team that you've already beaten the regular season. Again, in the Sugar Bowl, we're going to break down this Georgia and Ole Miss game, and it really boils down here, folks. What is going to be the factor Lane Kiffin not being in this football game? What are we going to see different here in this Ole Miss team that we didn't necessarily see on the road earlier in the season in Athens at Georgia? So where do we think Trinidad Chambliss can take advantage of this Georgia defense? I'm not in love with this Georgia defense. I haven't been in love with this Georgia defense. I think people are giving them a lot of props the last few weeks because how they played against Alabama in that SEC championship game. Alabama was down 10 players in that game. Ty Simpson still didn't have a bad football game that day against Georgia. We look back at Georgia against Georgia Tech, and again, lackluster performance offensively by Georgia, a team in Georgia Tech that was giving up big points all year, and Georgia could only muster 16 points against that team. The home field advantage that Georgia had in the first game is going to be, minimized here in the Sugar Bowl. We also need to see Key one, Lacey have a big game here this time against Georgia. He didn't have a great game last time. He had 31 yards rushing in that game. He did have 2 TDs against Georgia, but overall 12 carries for 31 yards wasn't going to do it. Trinidad Chambliss had over 300 yards total offense in that game, and if he could have got some in the fourth quarter, they just didn't possess the ball against Georgia, and that's really what it came down to. Georgia was able to score, and Ole Miss just couldn't get the ball for long enough to move. I'm not 100% sold on this Georgia team. I have picked Georgia to win this game in my initial bracket. Kirby Smart is 4-0 in games where he's had a rematch against an opponent. Now, 3 of those 4 games, he had lost early in the first matchup, and then he won in the second matchup. We'll see if he can go 5-0 here against a team that he's already beaten. I really think this game is going to come down to, can Ole Miss score like they scored early, for the first 3 quarters of the game against Georgia, and they keep Georgia, kind of off balance defensively. Trinidad Chambliss is going to need to have the game of his life here, and Keywan Lacey is going to need to have 100+ yards rushing in this football game for Ole Miss to have any chance of winning this game. Don't be surprised the Ole Miss Rebels come out and absolutely shock and surprise everybody in this Sugar Bowl. I really do think Georgia wins this football game in a closer game than expected by some. Georgia, I'm going to go 27-23